Hey, would you mind if we sang for you really quick?
Yes, of course.
Amen.
I wouldn't mind. Well, then I have to stand up as well. Hold on. I cannot be sitting. I cannot be sitting. Sorry. You're gonna
It's
be
okay,
sitting.
it's okay.
Very weird angle here.
Sorry. Great.
Grant to the Lord prosperous life, health, salvation, further all good things, your servant of God, Yelena, and grant her many years. God grant you many years. God grant you years. God grant you many, May God bless you and continue to bless the works of your hands. Thank you so much for what you've done.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for your prayers and your blessings.
So Yelena, we're gonna, well, I haven't told anybody this, but we're gonna come together tonight. We're gonna see how much money we can pull together and we'll make a donation. And we're very appreciative. And next time you're in San Diego, please stop by and visit us.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It'll be my great pleasure. I promise.
Propaganda. A lot of like a
Let
lot
me
of
approve it.
like a lot of Protestant material comes across that way as just propaganda. So yeah, I'm so excited about this movie, and just as a way, I think the lives of saints are one of the best ways for people to get an organic sense of the faith. And I think it's an approach for people to discover the faith that they haven't seen before, so they're not as hardened against it. So I'm just really
I agree
excited.
with you.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely. You actually mentioned something a few people have said, and I really appreciated your saying that. It sort of reminds me of things that are important. And sorry, did you have a question? Maybe I cut
I'm
you
sorry.
off.
I was actually just chiming in, and
Okay.
I didn't actually have a question. Yeah, I was just trying to say like how important it is what you're doing, because I think that it's going to be able to speak to people in a way that they're not expecting, and it almost catches them off guard. And even with the approach and the organic delivery of the movie and the saints, it's like there's something very subtle but powerful there when it's not, you're not overtly trying to tell them the moral, but it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable when there's that realism to the dialogue. There's like a little bit of grit there that I think it hits people. So yeah.
No, thank you. Well, what's interesting, just to add something to what you just said, my teacher from Playhouse, his name is Tony Savan. He actually moved to Philadelphia now. He has the same school, Playhouse. I don't know if it's called Playhouse West Philadelphia or not. I don't know, because I'm not in LA anymore. But I actually called him before I went into production, because he's an amazing script doctor. He consults a lot of people, even in the studios and scripts and things like that. And I asked him, Tony, can you please, just read the script? I'm going into production like in a few days. I just wanted to hear from him that, I mean, if this is okay, like, did I maybe do something completely crazy? You can't be that objective when you keep rewriting and redoing something yourself 50 times. So, and then he actually liked it. And then so that gave me confidence. But after I asked him to watch the movie, and I did not know who taught me. His name is Tony Savan. I never asked him, what's your religious background? When I was going to school, I thought he was some kind of Christian, maybe he was Jewish. I didn't know. But then he watches the movie and he calls me and he says, Yelena, I was in between classes sort of. And he says, first of all, I'm Lutheran. So that's the first time I found out like what is his religious background. And he says, and I was kind of gonna watch the film, on my PC and kind of scroll through it, as I do with all my other students when they make movies and go and teach a class. And he said, I couldn't put your film down. Like he said, I was like, I finished it. I went to teach a class, and all I could think about was, am I doing the right thing in my life? Like, he was so moved by the film. And he says, and what was the craziest thing, that once did I feel that you tried to tell me something This is what you're saying. Not once did I feel like you were trying to say to me, do things this way or do things or don't do this. It simply just came out of the story that I kept asking myself the whole class. I was teaching, I couldn't stop asking myself, do I have to change something in my life? So this is like an answer to what you just said. And I'm really happy to hear that, because yes, I agree with you. Like you can't, a lot of people, and I had this kind of challenge, like people around me when I was making this, because, you know, the investors, you know, and in my case, there were people from the monasteries, and they were trying to tell me they want to be on the set. And I had to tell them, listen, please, let me do this. I mean, you read the script. I can't have, not because I'm egotistical, nothing to do with that. I like to have a constructive criticism, but there was something so personal to me, and I really know the craft. And when they were saying, well, you know, you need to put the light, the spirituality, and I had to tell them, guys, I'm sorry, but that's just something that it never happens. That doesn't exist in the film language, that whoever approaches spiritual film or religious film in that way, it's going to be a little bit of a comedy or a cartoon. I was trying to like explain to them, and in a way, and whoever is Orthodox will understand this. I had to literally tell them, if I do an honest job, like if I can tell an honest story, like a human story that people can relate to, and if that story is as honest as it can be, then there is a potential that God, if it's his will, can bless the project, and there'll be a room for some kind of spirituality to you know, grow from that, but not because I've done something to add, because I'm not, that's not my job, nor can I do that as a film director. And when they were kind of a little bit complaining, I said, listen, then I asked them a question. I said, well, how do you get prayer of a heart? See, this is how I convicted them. I said, do you get a prayer of a heart? And for somebody who doesn't know what prayer of the heart is, when we do Jesus prayer, some of the people, not all the people, they could be a special gift from God, a grace from God, that the prayer could start repeating itself. I did never experience that, but there are people that have, that literally repeats itself by itself inside of your heart. And that's a very high spiritual level. You kind of feel joyful regardless of what's happening around you. That's what the saints experience. And they know very well that prayer, like you can be a monk for 30 years, you can practice and you might not get that. And you can be a simple person married or working somewhere, and that can happen because it comes by the grace of God. It doesn't come when we want it. It doesn't come because we necessarily, there's certain tools that we need to do to kind of get on the spiritual path. So that was my best way of explaining to them, to kind of give me space. Like, I can't put that, what you're asking me, that I cannot put that in, that can only happen from above. But what I can do, I can use my best knowledge to make the best film possible. And I told them, and believe me, you know, we are already kind of Christians, we are really targeted, and they make so many films where everybody says, oh, look at these films, they're so bad. And in most cases, they are. You know, and everybody's kind of pointing fingers. I said, at least what I would like to do is make a good movie so they can say that. So let's start with that. And then if something else happens, great, thank God for that. But that was my, I was really kind of fighting for that. And that's my strong belief that yes, stories of saints, people that people can relate to, could be a good tool to help people nowadays to kind of spread the light of Christ without preaching, and just simply showing it, God willing, you know, and helping people through work of cinema. That's
Yelena, I would love to get other people to have a chance to ask a question as well. I have a million questions, but I'm not going to ask any yet. So anyone else, does someone else have a question they'd like to ask?
I have a question.
Yeah, Dante, come on, get in here.
Hello, I'm Dante in San Diego.
Hi.
And my question is, as Becca mentioned earlier, you did an amazing job at highlighting the character of Saint Nektarios. And let me open this because I forgot what my question was. Yeah, you did a good job at highlighting his humility through his persecution. And with your new project coming up with Saint Moses the Black, do you plan on, like following a similar formula where you're highlighting the life of the saint's character throughout the film? And throughout your career, your future career, do you plan on making more movies about saints and about the faith?
Okay. Well, thank you for asking that question. That's this is how my idea about Saint Moses the Black came. It was like about 6-7 years ago, actually. I mean, even with Saint Nektarios, I never thought of making a film about a saint. It sort of happened when I read a book about him. It's something happened to me that I thought, wow, this would be a great movie. And then after I was working on Man of God, and as I was going into production, I already had a treatment for Saint Moses. And I remember my husband, who is a producer, saying to me, "Oh, you know, you really have to hurry up with this. You know, this is very current, you know." And I'm like, I don't care about, you know, I'm more like about artistic part of the story. He's coming more from the production stand. I told him, listen, I actually can't do that. It's not right. I've rewrote the treatment a few times, but I could feel it wasn't the right thing. So what happened to me about a year ago is that it actually came to me, and I believe that at least this is the way that I would like to do it. And I feel it will be the most beneficial to Saint Moses and to people that will watch the movie. I would like to tell a story of just for you who don't know, and I will explain. Saint Moses the Black was a 4th century saint who lived in Egypt in the 4th century. He was a violent criminal, gang leader, and a murderer. He's done everything that wasn't good. And one day he killed a government official, and he was basically sentenced to death. There was a bounty on his head, and he, as a gang leader, they hid him. They provided for him to run away, and he ran away and hid in the forest next to the monastery where Saint Isidore was an abbot. And what happened to him, I mean, even though there's not much, I mean, there are certain things written about him, but I've also did a lot of research on people that have been in gangs and they're no longer in that life, and they were lucky to survive. And some of them had very similar experiences, that when he faced death, as a matter of fact, when he experienced that fear of death, like real fear of death, which is a really fear of God, when he thought, well, wait a second, what if there is really something after this life? Like before that, he would kill, he would get shot, or he would get stabbed, he didn't care. Like a lot of young people nowadays in the gangs, I'm sure you see how they they're young, you know, when you're young, we don't care so much. You know, I remember when I was 18, I didn't care about anything. I could jump out of the parachute, you know. That's why a lot of kids that end up in that lifestyle, not because they're bad people necessarily, but because they don't have a choice, that they don't see a way out. They're not afraid of bullets or that, but then sometimes you can face the end, and sometimes it can happen that you get really scared. And this is what happened to Saint Moses. And he actually knocked on the door of the monastery where he was, and he told him, he was honest. He said, listen, I'm the merciless murder gang Moses. Everybody knew about him, but I'm not asking you to hide me from authorities. What I want to do is I want to actually repent and give my life to God, and I'm really serious about it. So the Abba Isidore told him, okay, if you're that serious, okay, stay there for 1 week. If you're still there repenting, and, you know, we'll throw you some food, you know, whatever, because they were afraid, you know, the monks, they thought maybe he's going to come in, because usually they used to raid the monasteries, kill monks and things like that. So they had to be careful. So Abba said, okay, you stay for a week out there, and if you're still there. So he really waited, and then after that, he let him in. So what happened, he was maybe in his late 20s, early 30s. He stayed there for 20 years, you know. Even his gang members thought he was dead. And one day they were raiding the monastery, and he actually handled them because he was incredibly physically strong. He was a tough guy, but they didn't recognize him. He just handled all 5-6 of them. He brought them in front of his elder and said, listen, these guys came here to kill and steal. Do whatever you want with them. I cannot judge anybody. I'm a sinful man. And then they recognized him, and all of them literally decided to stay in the monastery. So this was like an interesting life that he, with his incredible repentance, he influenced a lot of these gang members to turn to God, not just to change their life, but to go all the way, become monks. And towards the end of his life, he became a priest. And at 75, he was the abbot of a monastery in the desert called Patra in Egypt.